let's just talk a little bit about, Unilever, one of the biggest companies in the world, one of the biggest buyers of media in the world. As a CPG, you have very deep and long-standing relationship with retailers. Retail media, sort of a newer phenomenon, big opportunity for a company like Unilever. Mm-hmm. How have you sort of approached the retail media space?
So we've been spending a lot of time to really embrace that added layer to the relationship with our retailers. The dynamic that a retail media network or a retail media offering brings is something that's really exciting, that allows us as partners to think about how we could better serve the consumer. And over the past several years, many of our largest partners have launched networks that have given us the opportunity to connect with really strong data that was not available before, and measure it in a way that is not available other than through these partners. And that's really exciting. So when we think about media holistically, which is my responsibility, is to say, how does this sort of introduction over the past 5 to 10 years really impact the whole media mix? And there's a lot of progress being made and still a lot of work to be done. And I think that as good partners, we want to make sure that we could share our experience in media to make sure that retail media networks have the learnings that could kind of help them start running, sprinting, flying, quicker than a crawl walk.
So in other words, growing together means in some ways, having the retailers embrace some of the basics, right, that Unilever would be looking for in a media, just a good media partner. And we're all tired of the word standardization, but we're talking about it because we need to, right? And I think, can you talk a little bit about that, the conversations you're having around that?
Of course. When we work with partners on a national media scale, you get an RFP that has 10, 20 things that we want to check off to make sure that we understand what your offering can provide to us, but also allows us to feel confident that we're investing in a very responsible way. For Unilever, it's critical that we adhere to our responsible framework, and that puts brand safety and brand suitability at the center. So there are certain things from a media perspective, and retail media is a key word in that whole in that RMN, is that if you're going to play in media, you want to make sure that advertisers are set up for success in terms of safety and suitability. So that's just one critical area of the standardization, but there's other areas you want to make sure that your dollar works harder and smarter, and you need transparency for that. You want to understand what you're investing in and what's going to working media versus non-working media, because that's really important to help with the planning and also to see the performance on an equal playing field across the entire landscape.
And again, the entire landscape being all media.
All media.
You guys, yeah. Okay.
It's an exciting time, but I'd like to think that many of our great partners who work at RMNs, their ambitions are grand to play in the media space. You think about the exciting discussions about video, social. That's not your typical search display conversation.
Totally.
So when you start offering, which we really are excited about, you having a full offering that gives us more options. Who doesn't want more tools in their toolbox, right? But you want to make sure that when you come to market, you're doing great at what you're supposed to be great at. So we've discussed this in the past. What is your superpower? And are you living up to that superpower? Because I think you'll be better off being great at something and then acknowledging the other areas are really about innovation and experimentation and what role they play in the future of media.
Totally. But the being great at something includes some sort of basics and fundamentals of media. And I think that's sort of what you're talking about, right? That allows them to say, we can come to Unilever with a straight face and say, we've got you. Like the benchmark, the basics are covered, so that we can then think about, as you said, the really innovative things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are you excited about? Like what's innovative and cool that you're excited about in retail media?
Well, for those that know me, I do love video, and I think it's really exciting what's happening in video in collaboration with retail. I think when we think about the future retail media mix, having some offerings that build brands and give the opportunity to drive effortless commerce is really exciting. And that's something that at Unilever we say all the time. We want to build brands and drive effortless commerce with our media. So you could play in the brand building space, you could play in the effortless spot, but there are digital capabilities that exist that can kind of merge it together. And that's going to let us learn about what consumers are doing now, or what they're willing to test and dabble with. We know social commerce has been fairly common over the past couple of years, but what does commerce from your couch look like? And that to me is something that I'm personally excited about, and I think there's probably many others, but that's a big area right now to see the content and commerce kind of come together.